Thank you very much, Geraldine. It's the first time that I have the pleasure not to thank you, my collaborators, because you did it. And this is the great cooperation that we have here in these 3 days. But I promise some food. You know, I like to be provocative. When you ask for one word, we could put together all the words that we mentioned. And to me, there is one word that is the meaning for every word that I heard. Infrastructure. Why I say that? Remember, perhaps was Andrew Haldane of the Bank of England that anyone repeated many times, no? Because we are very good, no, better. I am very good to make questions, but it's very difficult to me give answers. Now, the question is, better. The CBDC is not the definition mode, a sentence. A CBDC are solutions in search of a problem. In 1975, Charles Goodhart, in a book titled Money, Information, and Uncertainty, ask another question. And this is the reverse. What makes currency serve as money? And it's interesting what he wrote in 1975 in a different geopolitical system, in a different period where law and market still struggling, okay, was in battle, but the power was almost balanced between those two. At a certain point, he says, sorry, because thanks to your thought, I understood to recall this first paragraph. And Charles Goodhart said, there have been 2 common forms of answer adopted by societies to the problem of funding some standard infrastructure, means of payment, embodying sufficient information to make it generally acceptable without detailed physical checking. And now the provocative consideration. It's not advertisement. Yesterday, Professor Florence, Professor of Weber, he has to leave, unfortunately, and me, were invited to contribute to this book that was published yesterday, was out. And it is edited by Florence Guillaume as Van Riva, and the title is Decentralized Autonomous Organization in the Legal Landscape, From Decentralized Governance to Legal Frontiers. Why am I talking of decentralized autonomous organization in front of central bankers? Because I think that we have to consider that when we talk about digital, we are talking about a specific means of payment used for guaranteeing the standard where there is not a centralized power. And here, the provocation that you find in my chapter, in my paper that is part of this book. The chapter is entitled, it doesn't matter. I go to be precise, the decentralized autonomous organization between the nation state and the network state. And you know what I mean when I say network. There is a specific person in the world that is trying to build it's not only a conception, it's more. Network state, network organization, network universities, and so on. And at a certain point in my writing, I mentioned a very strange experiment, because here we have a form of privatization of infrastructure. And my question is, could a monetary system be privatized? But not because I want to have an answer, basically yes or no, but because because I was thinking about before, it's not prepared. In 1999, so well before cryptos, Scott Miller in the United States pioneered mobile banking, and after created in July 1st, 2021, the American Crypto Fed, DAO. The American Crypto Federal Reserve, DAO, a monetary system. 7 minutes to 1 p.m. We have not a long journey, but I think we're worth our lunch. So just, yes, we have a white paper, obviously. And this is very interesting because it seems a constitution, but a strange constitution. Chapter 1, economic axioms. Inflation is not an option. Deflation is not an option. A currency must be stable. Money was invented to reduce transaction costs. Transaction costs are governance issues. A DAO governance can be an alternative to political agents, government agencies here say in brackets, who work for their own interests rather than people's. Axiom 7, a decentralized mechanism of incentive compatibility can be designed, innovated, to motivate self-interested participants to act for public goods. And Axiom 8, monetary dynamics is interaction of foreign exchange market and goods and services market. So we are in the second stage. And we painted this final moment with one portrait of Caravaggio that you can find at the Uffizi in Florence, Medusa. So good luck, everyone.